Let's go to Bible study. Yes, sir. Let's go to Bible study. Blacks in the Bible. And we're picking up where we left off. I'm going to just quickly go through the first few slides that we hit already on Wednesday and then accelerate. But basically, we are trying to show you the African presence in the New Testament and show you, the inclusiveness of the gospel towards those who are not Jewish. So that's where we're starting. And what we did was we ended with having some brief discussion from our last segment on the Old Testament. And what I read was, it says one needs to keep in mind that for the most part, by modern standards of ethnicity, first century Jews could be considered Afro-Asiatics. What does that mean? This is what that means. You see this? All right. This is to say that Jesus, wait a minute, I need to go in my preaching voice. I'm in the second slide. I'm on the third slide. I need to go to my preaching. This is to say that Jesus, I want you to hear this. Pay attention. That Jesus, his family, his disciples, and doubtless most of the fellow Jews he encountered in his ministry were persons of color. Oh, Lord, somebody just fell out the chair. Lord, have mercy. Well, get up, get back in the chair. Because you know the representation of Jesus that you're most accustomed to, that is a development of the Italian Renaissance. They were trying to find people who looked just like them to give a representation of Jesus. In the early church, of course, they didn't have photographs, although they still had art. They would use symbols to designate Christianity. That's where that ichthus comes in. You know, that fish. That comes from the beginning of the church. Crosses were also done to do the same thing. And so Jesus didn't look like that white man we have posted in a lot of our churches. I'm just going to say it, just in case you missed what I said. That's a representation of Jesus. Because there was a historical Jesus that came into the world, that hung, bled, and died, and rose from the dead. That work of Jesus. But anyway, I'm going back too much into what you already heard, so let me go straight through. It says they would certainly not be Europeans. The point is made because it has become virtually axiomatic for people today to envision that somehow the ancient people of the New Testament were all Europeans, and without much reflection or critical analysis, people tend to project modern Jews back into antiquity as if 2,000 years of assimilation never occurred. Let's go to the next slide. Now, you have to also keep in mind that assimilation had been going on all during the time of ancient Israel. Now, I'm not going to go to those slides and to those references, but if you studied with us here, you will recognize and even see through Scripture that in ancient Israel, you had what were called foreigners and aliens in Israel. You did have this. Because if you go back to Exodus, rather, that 12th chapter, it refers to the fact, I think it's somewhere around the 30th verse, it refers to the fact that when the Jews left Egypt, there was about 600,000 men that left with them, not including women and children. And then it said a multitude of others left with them. Who were others? You had Egyptians, looked like us. You had other folk, looked like us. You had the Jews back then, looked like us. And they all left together and they all blended together. All right? So when we look at in the Gospels for the African presence, when we view the ancient Jews of this time as Afro-Asiatic, we could say this even more about some of the peoples that lived around them. Now let's get to slide number 5. All right, now what we did was we looked at the genealogy of Jesus. We began this conversation the last time. We didn't go to the one in Luke because the one in Luke is straight genealogy. In other words, it takes you through the father's line, straight genealogy. It doesn't have any curves or contours or anything of that nature. It works you straight through. You see the lines of kings in his genealogy. You see David in that genealogy, just comes straight down. But the interesting genealogy that we need to look at is the genealogy that is found in Matthew chapter 1, starting at the first verse. It covers the first 14 verses, and that's the genealogy that ought to pique our interest. For example, when we start talking about Matthew chapter 1, it was written for a Jewish audience. Why can I say that? Right here, I'm looking at Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. It says, a record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Now, if the ancient Jew heard that, they would recognize two things. First of all, when it says the son of David, it's pointing to the fact that this genealogy is of the one who was destined to be the Messiah for Israel, because it was foretold that the Messiah would come from the lineage of whom? David. You with me? Number two, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the primary ancestor of the Hebrew nation. So this is talking to Jews. But now, reason why we're using this genealogy for our conversation today is that it shows a linear genealogy and the inclusion of Gentiles. And Gentiles is basically just a name for non-Jews, and several of whom were of African descent. Next slide. This is where we kind of left off last segment. We looked at Tamar, we looked at Rahab, we looked at Ruth. Tamar was from the Canaanites. You know, whenever you see the people in the Bible, Hittites, Gervasites, various ites. If you see ites after their name, generally those are Canaanites that lived around the Hebrew nation. And so Tamar came from those people. Tamar married Judah's son. Judah's son sinned greatly in the sight of the Lord. The Lord took him away from here. And then the subsequent sons died for different reasons. I'll let you go to Genesis chapter 38 and read that for yourself. We kind of covered it already. And then the bottom line is, Tamar said, okay, you're supposed to give me one of the sons as a husband through Levirate marriage, and you said that you were going to uphold the custom. I've kept myself. I've not gone after any man. I've been sitting here waiting, but you have not done what you said. So you know what? I'm going to go on the stroll and wait for you to show up. Now, y'all know what the stroll is, right? I know this is Bible study, but do I have to explain what the stroll is? You know, when you find those ladies of the night, the stroll. Now, lest you think I'm messing with the word, when you go to Genesis chapter 38, especially if you have a modern translation, you will see quite plainly that the Bible tells us that she put on her stroll clothes. Now, don't think the way modern people think. Modern people think that she went out there half naked. No, that's a modern interpretation. Understand that for the ancients, and especially in a lot of African cultures, if you were garbed with a whole lot of garb and you covered your face, this is pre-Muslim now, and dressed in a certain way, they would automatically know what you were trying to do. So she was able to do that, and her father-in-law not recognize her. Her father-in-law left some security there so he could go and pay her for her services later. They went and handled their business. She became pregnant with twins. That's who Perez and Zerah are in this particular verse. So let's back up before we even go any further. This verse is in the genealogy of Jesus. This verse, right? This verse tells us that in Jesus' genealogy, there was, and we might as well call it that, an incestuous relationship, because father-in-law should not be sleeping with daughter-in-law, right? Then when you look at this a little further and get into the story, this is better than some reality TV, Young and the Restless, General Hospital, whatever you watch. Because right here, she tricked Judah, got pregnant. Then when she got pregnant and Judah was getting ready to have her stoned, she said, all right, stone me, but while you do that, here are the securities from the person who's the daddy of these children. So you might as well stone him too. So when that was laid out, he had to confess and admit his wrongdoing, and they are part of Jesus' genealogy. And as I said to you on Wednesday, understand that if you find yourself in circumstances like this, if you find yourself, having to make questionable decisions, God understands and can meet you right where you are. Also understand that all of our families have some scandal in the genealogy. All of them do. This is Jesus' genealogy. Now you would think that Jesus is much more high and mighty than I, but as we sit here, look at the genealogy. All right, Rahab, let me speed up. Rahab, and Bible scholars, they don't differ much on this, but some, I think because they want to sugarcoat who Rahab was, they tried to make Rahab seem to be something else than what she was. When you look at the original language Hebrew and look at the descriptions of Rahab, they describe Rahab pretty much in two ways. The first way is they say that Rahab was a prostitute. I know this is Bible study. How can you have Bible study and the word prostitute come up? But it's in the book, y'all. Second way is that Rahab was a madam. So we can interpret that from what we saw, that Rahab graduated. She graduated from just being one of the ladies of ill repute to running the bordello, or what some folk would call the whorehouse. She graduated. Bottom line is, the Israelite spies showed up, and when they did, she said, we heard about what the Lord has done for you all, and remember me and my family when you come and take over this land. And they said they would. So now, Rahab. Does this look like some of our genealogies? Y'all, let's tell the truth. All of us have a little sand in our genealogies, and a lot of us have that drunk uncle that shows up at the family reunion. We got all kind of stuff in our family. And this is the genealogy of Jesus. But see, all of these persons also had African roots, because Rahab was also one of the Canaanites. Let me accelerate. Ruth was a descendant, or Ruth was a part of the genealogy as well. She wasn't a direct descendant, but it says Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. So now you see on one side you got Rahab, then further down on the other side of genealogy you have Ruth being grafted in the genealogy. Both of them were Canaanites. But now let's go to the next slide. This is where we accelerate a little bit. Bathsheba, y'all remember her? Do y'all remember Bathsheba? Don't pretend like you don't remember Bathsheba. It says, and Jesse, the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Now, Bathsheba was interesting because they say that somewhere further back in her genealogy, there were some Canaanites. She was married to a Hittite husband who was part of the Israelite army and who was a faithful man, who was a good man. But you know, David got into trouble because he had some downtime, and instead of focusing, he went on the roof and he saw this lady bathing, and you know, she was a sister and she must have been fine because he got distracted forevermore. But the bottom line is Bathsheba is a part of the genealogy, and Bathsheba also was the mother of King Solomon, who is said to be one of the wisest men that ever lived. Let's stop here. We're going to bring it back. We're going to pick back up with slide number 8. We're glad that you're watching. We hope that this is a blessing. This is Black Thought, and I'm your host, Dr. Hutchinson.